Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. It keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know from pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Music Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Cera Baker. Thank you all for joining me here on this episode where we're going to dive into this week's new releases that stood out to me, take a look at the global top 50 charts that made a notable movement, and a blast from the past of what went on in the music world this week in history. Various other music discussions, of course, but stick around for the last segment where I'll be diving into my band of the week. Here today, we're going to be talking about some standout releases from this week. Personally, I found that there were a lot of awesome collaborative releases, and what I noticed as well was a lot of realism in lyrical content that was put out this week, so super fun stuff. First one I'm going to bring up is, of course, Kiss Me by Doja Cat and SZA. Both of these women have been, top in the charts since they've gained major traction recently in pop culture. And, this collaborative track was very fun, very celebratory, and overall, really liked the way that that SZA and Doja Cat were able to collaborate on a track, expressing their own artistry while still finding a beautiful balance of both of their individual and unique sounds. It was a really, really fun track. Definitely give that a listen if you have not. I think that it's very much so worth your time. Another track that is a collaborative effort that I did not expect but absolutely love is, and I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation, y'all, please bear with me as I do not speak Spanish, Oira Noche Sin Ti by J Balvin and Khalid. Again, very individual artists. They have such their own sound, and this track was a beautiful collaborative just piece with J Balvin and Khalid, that, the lines that Khalid was singing just kind of danced over the feel of the song, the sound overall of this release. J Balvin's sound himself was incredible, and it was very smooth. It made me really, I just felt fulfilled, if that's a good way to put it. I felt really fulfilled listening to this track and hearing how, such different genres were able to meld together so nicely. Khalid is very R&B almost, but also pop, whereas J Balvin is, of course, a Latin artist. And so with that, it's strange. You wouldn't think that two artists like that would meld together so well, but here we are in this beautiful, just, milkshake of music, if you will. Of course, I gotta talk about Taylor Swift's new release. She released the album this week about, the songs from the vaults. The name of it is escaping me, which is embarrassing, y'all, but I will find it now. Oh my goodness, of course. She re-released Fearless, entitled it Taylor's Version. Every single song, thus, saying Taylor's version at the end, of course, as you know, with just the whole debacle of her not even owning her own music, which is why she re-released everything. awesome stuff. A track that I specifically wanted to talk about was Mr. Perfectly Fine. Taylor Swift even tweeted about this, that she, wanted to release this song from a vault. And a lot of people were surprised with this release. It, kind of outlines the classic Taylor Swift topic of mentioning, men in her life that were inadequate, but were so okay with that and okay with her hurting as a result of, a treacherous relationship. I saw a lot of articles where people were chatting thinking that this song was written about John Mayer. As, people know, she dated him when she was 19. He was much older than her. And, she often is known for not having a good view of how that relationship went. It was very toxic, et cetera, et cetera. And what's interesting is, while I would be inclined to say that this is about John Mayer, Taylor Swift tweeted that she wanted to release this 2008 song, and Taylor Swift and John Mayer were only rumored to have been together, starting in 2009. The person that Taylor Swift was dating in 2008? Joe Jonas. Oddly enough, right? So, this is important to note. I feel like this song was not about John Mayer. Regardless, it was really interesting hearing, her adult voice on such a country-driven song. It was very, acoustic, and it kind of fell back into the old Taylor sound, with this Fearless album, of course. And it was really fun, hearing her sing where her roots were, basically, in music, again. So, really cool stuff. Definitely check out Taylor's version of Fearless. It's good stuff. You've already heard it all, but you haven't heard this one, so go out of your way to check out Mr. Perfectly Fine. Another good release that came out this week was Shy Away by 21 Pilots. This is kind of the first taste of the next album T.O.P. is going to be putting out in the near future. So very exciting things coming from them. One important thing that I think is cool to note is that this song was very light-hearted. It felt really just happy and celebratory in a way that I haven't heard 21 Pilots make music like in quite some time, if ever. Granted, that's not saying that this song was happy, cheery, woohoo, let's all go party, but it did indeed give me a really fun, just content feeling. Reading an article with the singer Joseph, he mentioned that, he wrote this album and what they're going to be releasing is very adult, growing forward, moving up in the world, with answers to the questions that you have as a young adult. And so I'm really looking forward to the content of just this genius lyrical creations that this guy's going to come up with. So I can't wait to talk about that with you all, hopefully next week when they might drop another song. I don't know, this is me guessing, but fingers crossed that they do that. Cool fun fact about this song actually is, we're all working in quarantine, we're all doing our lives, trying to make the most of a pandemic, and, that, includes artists as well. And Joseph mentioned that, in the very beginning of the track, you hear a baby cooing in the beginning. Funnily enough, that is his child, Rosie. He initially, when he was writing the idea of the song, kind of trying to put something down, she was cooing in the background. And, and at first he was kind of upset, frustrated that she was making some noise. And as he went to move forward, work on the song, he then came to fall in love with the idea that she was truly part of the creative process. So I love that, I love that he decided to keep that in there, that, Josh Dunn was like, yeah, all right, we can do that, It's cool, that they kept that little stamp of life in the music, even though it was from, a demo version of the song. It's cool to know that she's on there forever. First baby, sighting, musical sighting in 21 pilot history. So monumental stuff here, folks. A really nice song that I want to talk about is by Polo G, a rap star. So, I don't know Polo G that much. I'm aware that he is so famous, but I'm not the biggest rap fan. However, I can note that Polo G, this song, the lyrical elements of it and everything were awesome. For me, it's hard for me to listen to a lot of rap because I can't relate to the content. I can appreciate it, and that's not saying I can't relate to having $1 million and awesome cars and stuff. Nor the trials and tribulations that, Black Americans have gone through, that has thus penetrated, in a beautiful way, rap music. However, Polo G in this song did bring up some relatable things for me. It was really cool that the music that he was making and the lyrics of this were about mental health almost, anxiety and depression, kind of unpacking a little bit of trauma. And artists that do that, I think, are very brave, and it's very beautiful when they're able to do that. So I thought that not only was the lyrical elements of this song relatable to me, some random white girl, but I also loved the sound of sampling a ukulele in the track. Super cool addition to the music there, right? And creating something kind of timeless in a weird way. So loved that. Really did love that release. If you haven't listened to Polo G, like I have not much, go out of your way, take a listen to Rapstar. It's great. Really appreciate what he poured into this track. Good stuff, guys. Bankroll by Brockhampton. Some awesome stuff there, too. It's the first time Brockhampton made a collaborative effort with the ASAP mob. ASAP Rocky and ASAP Ferg. The group Brockhampton kind of alluded to this release 2018. So it's interesting. I wonder how long they've been sitting on this for. But the track itself was awesome. Loved the beat. Loved the feel. It was some good stuff. What I didn't really like this week was Wave of You by Surfaces. It might grow on me in a while, but maybe it's just because I love Sunday Best so much and the feel of their other music, but it felt like this song just fit too perfectly in the pocket of what people think people want to listen to, if that makes sense. It didn't drag me in, it didn't make me want to dance, but I could tell that was their goal, trying to make some music that people want to listen to, and it just didn't hit for me. So an unfortunate release on Surface's behalf, but obviously artists can't hit the nail on the head every single time, so gotta give them some credit. Unexpected collaborative release this week was Anywhere Away From Here by, get this, Rag and Bone Man and Pink. Two beautifully strong, powerful, chesty voices coming together. This song felt like it needed to be in an inspirational sort of, how do I put this? The song seemed like it needed to be in a I've overcome all of this place. Granted, I don't believe that that's what the lyrics were all about, but the passion and like the power of the performance from both Rag and Bone Man and Pink was incredible. Of course, you cannot expect any less from their vocal capabilities. And together, beautiful, folks, okay? Definitely give this a listen. If you want to cry a little bit or feel, just warm, musically warm, give your ears some lovin' and put on this track. And the last one that I kind of want to talk about, I love Tierra Whack. Tierra Whack is a beautiful, is amazing artist. She released a song Link, and of course fit perfectly in the pocket of what Tierra's sound is. Her rhyme scheme was on point. I'm not even gonna try to emulate what she did, but the lyrics and the feel of the song was so on Tierra Whack brand. It is gorgeous and super fun. Love the energy of it. Definitely think that this was a good release. So happy that I got to take a listen to that. And those are just a few of my standouts from this week. So like I mentioned, I loved the collaborative releases and the realism almost of a lot of these lyrical things. Just really diving into the truth of a situation or your own truth. So loved that. Really, really loved that. Next segment, stick around. We'll be talking about this week's charts, what's going up, what's going down, and what's just popping on. So hang around, and we will take a look at this past week's top charts and, just dive into that a little bit more. So thanks so much, guys, and I will be right back in just a few seconds after this break.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with me again to take a listen to this week's top global, okay, it's important we listen to global music here, folks, global charts. In the future, we'll obviously be diving a little bit more into how they compare with last week, but let's just use this as a nice starting place here and get going. So, let's just start at number 1 this week. Is, of course, Montero, Call Me By Your Name by Lil Nas X. Obviously, the controversy around this song has been huge, but any publicity is good publicity, am I right? So, Lil Nas is doing what he wants to do. Also, shout out, it was recently his birthday. Can you believe this guy is 22 years old? Incredible. So in love with his just growth as an artist over this just past 2 years. It's incredible. His 20s have been pretty good for him so far, I'd have to say. So, love that he's embracing himself, his sexuality, and making it known that you can be, a cool rap guy, and you can love who you want to love. Go off, Lil Nas. At number 2, we have Peaches by Justin Bieber and featuring Daniel Caesar. I love Daniel Caesar so much. His voice is like honey, just like seeping into the crevices of my brain, and it just feels so warm and beautiful every time he opens his mouth. Peaches is really fun. I know somebody that posted a video online slowing the tempo down a little bit, and I have to admit, Peaches does feel very rushed. I wonder if they wanted to fit more lyrics in after they had settled on the beat and couldn't really elongate it, or didn't feel like changing it up, or if they just wanted to go with this really super fast-paced feel for Peaches. But regardless, number 1 and number 2, they're staying there as what they are. Montero and Peaches have remained at the number 1 and number 2 positions this week. Number 3 is, as I mentioned before, Rap Star. It just popped on here. So welcome to the top 3, Polo G. Good stuff with your amazing tune. However, what was moved down because of Rap Star was Astronaut in the Ocean by Masked Wolf. I'm not a fan of this song. I wish I was, and I can't really talk about why. I think it's because I just don't like this combo sound, if that makes sense. It's just not my cup of tea, guys. So, I'm sure people out there love it. Not my sound, but it is moving down in the charts this week. Staying at number 5, though, we have Save Your Tears by The Weeknd. It's interesting listening to this as a musician myself, you listen to the production of the track, and anytime I hear Save Your Tears by The Weeknd, I can't not just hear the pad element in the background. I can just see somebody like making the chords with their hand, and there's just something about the way that it cuts off so fast. It doesn't like fade nicely. You don't have a nice echo on it. I don't know. It doesn't rub me the right way. The Weeknd is amazing, of course. You know, he's in the top 10 most streamed artists in the world, so he knows what he's doing, of course. But it's just interesting for me. I can't not hear that every time I listen to this song. So number 6, entering / going up on the charts is, as I mentioned before, Mr. Perfectly Fine by Taylor Swift. I'm curious to see if this will climb next week, if she's gonna start, maybe even opening the doors again to her country roots, like I talked about earlier. But yeah, it's sitting here at number 6, and I like it. I like the song. It's good stuff. I'm curious, again, like I said, to see if this goes up, if it sits here, or if it goes down. So can't wait to talk about that next week with you guys. Number 7, however, what went down because of Mr. Perfectly Fine, Leave the Door Open, Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak. Love this song. It is gorgeous. I love the feel of both Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak as their own individuals. And then when they came together, beautiful. Excellent. 10 out of 10. Love it all. But the song just went down on the charts, so oh no, sitting at number 7 this week. Still incredible though. Love the track. Love the feel. A Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo has also dipped down a bit. That's not to say, though, that she has not done well with this track. As you most likely aware, it's sat at number 1 for quite some time. I'm pretty sure it was one of the first solo releases to ever immediately go to number 1 on the charts. Crazy stuff. I'm pretty sure she's 19, and it's just beautiful seeing what somebody at that age has been able to create and make in this world. So I love that. At number 9, we have Fiel by Los Legendarios, Wishin, and Jahey Cortez. I feel like I just butchered that. These are more Latin artists from Puerto Rico. Loving this sound. Great stuff. Overall, great track. Definitely give it a listen. It's important, guys, that we listen to global music because not all the best music out there is in English, right? So take a listen to this. Even though I don't speak Spanish and I don't necessarily know what they're saying, I like the feel. So it's good stuff here. And then, of course, at number 10, plopped onto the charts this week was Kiss Me More by Doja Cat and SZA. So those are the top 10 tracks this global week. Something that I wanted to note that entered the top global 50 this week was X Gon' Give It To Ya by by DMX. DMX passed away this week. As you're probably aware, his relation to the Notorious B.I.G. And just using that trio of just powerful, Tupac, B.I.G. and DMX, they were the guys. And, we're living in a time where, unfortunately, we're going to be seeing these people go. I think it was too soon, but it's interesting that his track is at 41, popping back onto the charts at 41. Everybody just, definitely basking in his artistry because we didn't know what we had until it was gone, right? But yeah, this was some really good chart, I guess, songs here this week. It's interesting, seeing how Taylor Swift's album, almost all of these songs from this Fearless Taylor's version are on this, popping on here this week. She's got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Taylor has taken up 12 of the 50 slots on the global, not the US, the global top 50 charts. I mean, it is insane to think of just the impact this woman has on music. I think that her re-releasing this album and doing her own thing is so admirable, and I love it. I absolutely adore it. I think that as an artist, you should have the music that you write, and it's ridiculous that she had to go to this measure, but in all honesty, the payoff is clearly huge. Just popping on the charts this week, and like I said, 12 songs out of the top 50 have her name on it. So crazy cool stuff, guys. I cannot believe that, like I said, it resorted to this, but, you gotta do what you gotta do. Taylor Swift doesn't care, alright? She is her own lady. She said, you said, I'm not gonna have my own music? Bet. I will. This is mine now. Take a listen. Have fun with all my streams. She didn't care. She's doing her own freaking thing, and we love to see it. We love to see it, guys. It is crazy to think how many albums she's released. Fearless in 2008. I mean, God, it's just, she was so young when she started blowing up. The fact that her very first album was self-titled, but there are so many bangers on that. Can we not forget about how incredible this album was? Should have said no. Are you kidding me? Ready for this? Picture to Burn? Come on. That was so good. Teardrops on My Guitar. Peak top music. Just so good. And, oh God, our song? Guys, I'm sorry. I just got caught up in this love of Taylor Swift. And it's so crazy seeing her face, seeing her grow up in all of her album covers. I'm just taking a look here now. It's interesting, the only album where she's not showing her face is Evermore. So, interesting stuff here, folks. Anyways, I digress, guys. Back to the global top 50. At number 50 that's gone all the way down is Baila Conmigo with Selena Gomez and Rauw Alejandro. I'm not surprised that Selena Gomez's release flopped in a way. I mean, to say that it flopped is kind of rude, but in all honesty, I know a lot of people within the Latin community weren't too keen on her creating a Latin album, which doesn't, I wish I understood it more. From what I picked up, from what people told me, it was because, she was such a white, pop musician, and she didn't give back to her Latin roots. It's not like she had a lot of, or at least from what the person I spoke with this about told me, they don't believe that she did a lot to pay homage to what she is now trying to profit from. So, I don't know how I feel about it. I think the song is good. Myself, just my opinion, I think that it's good, but I'm not surprised that we see it all the way down at the top 50, 50th spot. So, I mean, good on her for releasing that track, but, not surprised about it popping down. Any other new releases that just made its way into the top charts? Not that I am really seeing here. I think that with global music, so it's really cool to think and see that a lot of these are, Latin artists. And I am curious with Khalid and J Balvin, their recent release, how that's gonna play globally. Like I mentioned before, they are such different artists, different sounds, different guys doing their own thing. And I think it's going to be really exciting to kind of see how that duo plays out. I think that with collaborative releases like that, it's so important that we do, combine the lines of music, open the doors for people, because there are probably so many people that listen to J Balvin that would never go out of their way to listen to Khalid, and vice versa. And I think that it's so awesome to see artists from different roots coming together and making music for different people. It's like, I don't know what artist, some rap artist released like an album with Linkin Park or something like that, and it opened the doors to people that traditionally listen to rap and traditionally listen to Linkin Park to kind of, walk through, turn into a hallway, so really love that. Super cool stuff. Definitely a fan of these new collaborative releases and how hopefully they positively impact the way that we all generally listen to music moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, we're going to have a quick little break here, but hang on to your hats because I'm taking you a little blast from the past, diving in to what musical history things happened in the past this week. So, not this week, but from, 1970, 1960, all that jazz. Not particularly just jazz, but some cool stuff happens every single day, and I cannot wait to share with you guys. So hang on to your hats and get ready to time travel, if you will, to remind ourselves, what happened back then? So I'll be right back, guys. Thank you so much for listening and sitting with me for this top 50 chart. Can't wait to share with you all the blast from the past of musical times.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for hanging in there, coming back, listening with me to my blast from the past session of this episode, where we're going to dive into cool, historical things that happened on this past week. I'm going to dive into it day by day rather than going year by year, just because I think that makes it a little easier to comprehend in my linear scale of time. So the first day that I'm going to start on is April 5th. One of the coolest things about April 5th, in 1980, if you know the band REM, people did not know them before this day because this was their first ever gig at a church in Athens, Georgia. They were playing at an abandoned church for a friend's birthday party, because that's where your friends all get together and play music, right? So, cool stuff. You think about it, 1980, I mean, they were about to really just dive into their fame in the upcoming years, so crazy stuff, right? To think that April 5th, their very first gig ever. However, something that's not as fun about April 5th, as I'm sure most everyone knows, 1994 was the day that Kurt Cobain took his own life, the lead singer of Nirvana. Tragic loss of a musical genius. I believe he joined the 26 Club or whatever it's called. So unfortunate stuff there, but one kind of cool good thing about April 5th in 2016, Drake, you know that guy? Pretty sure you do. Well, he released One Dance, and it topped the charts at number 1 in the US and in the UK for 15 weeks. Consecutive weeks. Can you imagine? I mean, recently, I believe Olivia Rodrigo, driver's license, was sitting at the top for quite some time, but 15 weeks? That's about 4 months. 4 months just chilling at number 1. I don't know if we weren't releasing as much great music back in 2016 constantly, or maybe just One Dance, this song really did us all in, and we were just vibing super hard with Drake. I mean, yeah, good for him, but it is crazy, that song, also became the most played song on Spotify at the time with over 950 million streams, individual streams. I mean, I don't know, what Drake is putting into that music, but it is addictive, and we all love it. So good on him for releasing that track. April 6th, okay, we're moving down the week here, 1968. One of my all-time favorite bands, Pink Floyd. A lot of people know this, but I don't think a lot of people are aware of just how bad the situation was, where on this day, Pink Floyd announced that their founder, Syd Barrett, he left the group. And of course, they could probably announce that he left the group, but we all know that, in all honesty, he was kicked out. I mean, he had serious psychiatric problems, just kind of magnified by his drug addiction. But that poor fella, imagine creating one of the most famous groups of all time and being forced to leave because you're not yourself, or maybe you need help. It's just heartbreaking. But it is crazy to note, and you gotta remind yourselves that Pink Floyd would not be as profoundly and widely accepted and loved had it not been for the downfall of Syd Barrett, because his psychotic and just instability, his lack of mental stability really is what drove the good music, the most widely known music. If you don't know, now you know that Dark Side of the Moon was written for Syd Barrett. The band, after Syd Barrett left, they wrote that album basically for him. I mean, Shine On You Crazy Diamond is all about him. A fun fact, too, about that album and just how, Pink Floyd was recording it, Syd Barrett would actually, because it's not like he wanted to leave the band. I feel like people don't know this was not a, yeah, right, I'll leave, guys. Thanks so much for this opportunity. No, he wanted to be there. He wanted to make this music with his friends. And he would sit in the lobby of the recording studio, waiting for them to call him in. So it's crazy to think that he was so close yet so far from the creation of something so incredibly monumental that he had such an impact on, but not the impact that he wanted. But yeah, so April 6th, 1968 was the day Syd Barrett had officially left Pink Floyd. Moving it back a year, though, it was really cool stuff. April 6th, 1967, the first master tape of the Beatles' new album, can you imagine saying the new, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, was made. I mean, that is so crazy. To think back at, like, this was the time that they were about to get this out there. We were about to listen to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, She's Leaving Home, Fixing a Hole. I mean, wow. It's just crazy that we had not been blessed. Our ears had not been so lucky up until this point. So this was the first master tape. If y'all don't know what a master is, mixing it is when you balance all the instruments, and masters making it as commercially viable as possible so that people will want to listen to it on the radio. yada yada. So this was like the final big step in releasing this album. And this was interesting because this album too had, the Beatles made sure that they specified that there were not going to be no gaps between songs. You know, in the past, artists leave about a 3-second, maybe 5-second if they're feeling crazy, gap in between songs, playback, when you listen to the whole album. But the Beatles were the ones who said, you know what, we're going to change that up. Because classic the Beatles, just redefining music, they said, I'm going to change it up, and it was a very unique idea at the time, and obviously that has then translated so beautifully into music now. Some of my favorite albums include 30-second interludes in between two hot tracks, with no, second breaks. If anything, it is a continuous piece of music, the entire album. So I love that. They kind of sparked that idea. Moving along the week, down the timeline of the week, April 7th, 1978, the Police, ready for this? Released Roxanne as the first single from their debut album. It is crazy, again, to think that April 7th, Roxanne hit the stations for the very first time. I know this is one of my favorite songs by the Police. I mean, it's insane, too, that the subject matter, 1978, the song is obviously about a man who falls in love with a prostitute. Fun fact, if you didn't know that, listen to the lyrics and you will understand. You don't have to put on that red dress. I mean, guys, come on. Pick up all these cues, right? But the title came from the name of a character in a play, and Sting just saw it on an old poster that was hanging in a hotel room in France. So really interesting to think. I wonder if he had seen a different poster, if that poster wasn't there. I often think about how if something was this, then this wouldn't have happened, and it's kind of crazy to think that if they weren't in this hotel in Paris, where this one character from a play that was happening, it could have been like Betsy. I don't know. They wouldn't say Betsy, but you know what I'm saying. It's kind of crazy. It's interesting though, but when it was first released, it did not chart. But when it was re-released in 79, not on this day, of course, but it peaked at number 12 on the UK charts. So it's crazy to think that it has lasted this long, but I don't think it was ever a number one hit. So cool stuff there to just note that. Another cool thing was that in 1985, on April 7th, Wham! Became the first Western pop group to perform live in China when they played at the Workers' Gymnasium in Beijing. I mean, it's strange, but also makes sense that it wasn't until 1985 that Western pop music did not enter the gates of China, and it's cool to know that Wham! The Wham! Said, I'm opening that door, let me in, let's go, let's have fun. So cool stuff there. April 8th, 1964, so backing it up quite a bit, the Supremes, they're mostly known for that Stop in the Name of Love song. Incredibly, if you don't know them, they are one of the top Motown artists of history. They recorded Where Did Our Love Go in Detroit, and it would then become their first number one single, which is huge, especially in 1964. This is 3 black women, and that is just, if you think about society at the time, it's amazing to think that they were able to create, a commercially successful Motown act, and they were the most commercially successful Motown act to date, and one of the most successful vocal groups as well. So really, really cool to note that. Good on them. Crazy stuff. I mean, wow, to think that they were able to break through the barriers of music. In 1959 they were pretty popular too, but it's like knowing that they released this song, or they recorded this song on that day, and I don't know. I think that it's incredible, and we have to remind ourselves of the triumphs that people had to successfully partake in and do it just to prove themselves, and even in just musical forms. So, I mean, I don't know about y'all, but that is some crazy cool stuff there. And then jumping all the way from 64 to 2017, I think that it's cool and important to note that on April 8th, 2017, Tupac, oh my gosh, why did I say it like that? Tupac, and the singer-songwriter of Pearl Jam were entered into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they were inducted alongside ELO, so Electric Light Orchestra, Journey, and during a concert in New York. So it is interesting to think, that they entered at the same time, to think that Tupac and Pearl Jam, were both brought to light at the same exact moment. It's kind of strange, but also I love it. And I can't wait to see what artists in our modern day time will then be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame later on. I'm just gonna jump to, today. So, April 11th, I think it's cool to note that, Bob Dylan in 1961 played his first live gig in New York City. Imagine Bob Dylan's first live gig. I mean, wow. That is crazy to me that he did have a first gig at one point, and now he is Bob Dylan. You know what I'm saying? Kind of crazy. And then, of course, 1964, the Beatles once more doing their thing. They set a new chart record for having 14 songs on the Billboard Top 100. Interesting to note, as I even mentioned even mentioned earlier in this episode, that Taylor Swift right now has 12 of the top 50 songs. So, obviously that record has been broken, but the songs ranged from Can't Buy Me Love to Love Me Do. So, cool stuff there. I mean, the Beatles are so monumental, and it's so important to note that they got it going for them. That's all I'm going to really give you guys about a blast from the past this week. There are still so many other artists and things to mention, but stick around after this break, and I'm going to dive into my band of the week. You're not going to want to miss out on this, so grab a cup of coffee and get ready to rumble.
Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blanks and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Everybody, welcome back. I hope you guys grabbed a drink or a nice piece of bread or something. I grabbed myself a cup of tea because when we're sitting down today, we're going to be talking about my band of the week. I am an avid music listener. I love music. I studied music. I'm a musician. Music is everything to me. And I wanted to dive into a band that means so much to me, that I love, having watched their growth for years and years and years, and seeing the transformation of their music over time. Granted, their popularity has gained some traction, but in different ways. And I think that it's really cool when we dive into a band of the week that we can look into how an artist has changed, and how their music has paralleled the musical trends of the time. Or how, the complete opposite, how they've, stood out from what was popular, what is new. So what I'm going to be diving into today is the 1975. They are a British band. Some websites and sources say that they formed in 2012, but that is not the case. This band comprised of Maddie Healy, who is the vocalist, lyricist, rhythm guitar, Adam Han, he plays the guitar, lead guitar, George Daniel, he's the drums, backing vocals, and of course the producer, Maddie as well helps with production, but it's mostly George, and Ross McDonald, the bass player. These guys met in high school. They formed technically in 2002, covering punk songs, believe it or not. So they were basically a cover band, as most high school bands are, covering, classic punk artists that they loved. And I want to make a quick note of that because me personally, I have never been able to hear that sort of basis in their music. I listen to punk music as well, and to know that was what they released or what they were playing before feels almost wrong because of the dancey 80s electronic and also like futuristic vibes of their music now. So it's kind of funny to imagine Maddie Healy singing some, classic punk songs or alternative music. I mean, I could hear them probably rocking with the Smiths or something like that, but I don't know, I can't imagine them dragging on some Oingo Boingo or something like that. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out, that was kind of interesting that they would cover punk songs. But they played together for many years, and it wasn't until, about 10 or 11 years after they had initially formed where they released music. They started off with an EP, and it was Face Down, so that was released in 2012, and, their music started getting played on radio stations and streams. One of their songs, Sex, was one of the first ones that was streamed online and played for mass audiences. So from there, their popularity started to grow, and they got a lot of attention, especially, of course, in the UK and around, I think, Ireland. They were super popular in those areas. And then in 2012 as well, they released Music for Cars, that was 2013, in March of 2013. And the song that broke down the doors of the 1975's small band name, Chocolate, okay, that song exploded. If you haven't heard that song, you're going to want to listen to it. It is such a bop. It makes you want to just jump around, fling your hair back and forth. It does not matter what it is about. It is not, I guess, safe for this podcast, but it's great because it is such a banger, guys. I mean, it just it fills you with all of the necessary serotonin to move forward with your day. So 10 out of 10 would recommend listening to Chocolate if you haven't, because obviously they gained traction from that song for a reason. And when it was first released, it reached number 19 on the UK singles charts. And they went on tour in 2013. I believe they went on tour with Muse or something like that. So crazy stuff. I mean, can you imagine you release this one EP and it explodes, and there you are standing next to an iconic band as well. I mean, really cool stuff. But with time, they kept releasing music and touring in the UK. And in 2013, they finally then went on a North American tour. And they went on tour in Europe, New Zealand, Australia, between 2013 and 2014. And they performed at Coachella in 2014. So that shows you just how big they exploded. Their first album that they released after Music for Cars was self-titled, so the 1975, and all the tracks in there were very straight up pop music, straight up this is the sound. Well, no, I'll get to that. But this is the sound of pop, really, and 80s especially. I mean, they really just dig into the synths. Seeing them live, the energy is immaculate, and especially with that first self-titled album, all the songs are basically written, you could tell that they wrote them with the intention of just dancing around, just having fun. They were probably jamming out and found a good riff and dug into that and ran with that to create that album. What's cool is that their next album was much more artistic. So that first album, again, self-titled, the 1975, was very much so pop music. This is what we want to hear on the radio. This is what people want to listen to on the radio. Obviously, yes, it was good music, okay? Cannot deny the fact that it was good music. But what made the second album even better to me was that they started to really brand themselves, and Matty Healy's lyricism started expanding in a way that I think defined the 1975 from that point on. Where their second album, I Like It When You Sleep, For You're So Beautiful Yet So Unaware of It, that album when it was released, first of all, one cool thing to know is that the very first song on each of their albums is the same. It's a self-titled song. However, with each album, it has transformed. So it's the same lyrics, but the production of it and the performance of it is completely different for each album. And I think it's supposed to set the scene for what the music they are making is at the time, or what they feel truly passionate about musically. So the very first one was very 80s, it fit the definition there. And in that second album, it was very, there was a lot of, gospel voices, group oriented. And I think a lot of the second album was based on Matty Healy's, almost like identity crisis within himself and what his beliefs were. And that's why the lyrics in that next album were incredible. And obviously, yes, they paid homage to their pop 80s sound immensely in that second album. Like I mentioned, the sound, oh my gosh, what a great song. I believe they, if they have a concert, I'm pretty sure that's what their encore song is always. They will never not end with the sound because everyone loves that so much. And other songs like Ugh and whatnot are incredible. An important thing to note about that album, I Like It When You Sleep, For You're So Beautiful Yet So Unaware of It, that's when their song Somebody Else was released, and that saw a lot of traction in the US. I think, the 1975 was popular because of their first album in the US, and especially with the whole Tumblr gang at the time, right? But it wasn't, I think, until that song released where they dove into the base that they have now. Obviously, the fans, the stans, if you will, that have been around since the first album, still love them, still there, but I feel like they broadened their musical horizons a little bit with that release, and the popularity that song gained just because it was so relatable to so many people. And it's interesting in that song, the chorus is, I don't want your body, but I hate to think about you with somebody else. It's that sort of topic, and even though the song is so simple like that, it's crazy to know that Matty Healy, the first lyric he wrote in that song was, come on, baby. Like, that was all he had. That was all he was working with himself. And it's beautiful to think that it transformed into that album, into that song. But, after that album, with a lot of gospel feelings and everything like that, then they released the album, A Brief Inquiry to Online Relationships. That one was awesome, of course. Straight up just beautiful music. The songs, I mean, I wish that I had time to dive into all of them, but one of the first songs on that album is Sincerity is Scary, which is incredible, as well as I'd Love It If We Made It. And this, I think, shows just how with time, Matty Healy decided to use the platform that they had to talk about topics that were important to him. A song, I Like America and America Likes Me, speaks a lot about gun control in the U.S. The song, The Man Who Married a Robot is speaking all about, how we are obsessed with the internet and being online and everything like that. And I can tell that those songs kind of moved us into their now latest album, which is Notes on a Conditional Form. They were planning on releasing that within the same year of Brief Inquiry to Online Relationships, but I think the love that A Brief Inquiry had was almost overwhelming, and I think that the band then tried really hard to make something monumental in another way too. However, in my opinion, and in most people's opinion, this album is not their strongest album. People do not love it as much as they love all of the other albums, just because I don't think that we were ready for the dance music that they were trying to produce. So I think like Bagsy Not Net, Shiny Collarbone, songs like that, those were not sounds that we have heard the 1975 create. And I think that they're trying to open a door to, again, broadening their audience's appreciation and like what people really want to be listening to. They want to find more people that fit all over the spectrum, because the fact that on Notes on a Conditional Form they have a song People, which is very scream, punk, just very, I guess, what do you call it? I guess anti-big guy. The word's escaping me. But it's really like, grr, angry, loud sounds. And then you go and you listen to The Birthday Party. This was just, which is a very chill, acoustic guitar, blah, blah. This album is not cohesive in the slightest. And I think that is why people struggled at appreciating this album, just because they tried so much to make all of the music that they wanted to, and it just didn't translate to the average listener like all of the other albums did before. If you didn't know the artist prior to this album, with Notes on a Conditional Form, before Notes on a Conditional Form, it was easy to dive into the topics there, but because this album is so different, maybe they are trying to I think I could argue that they are trying to broaden their audience exposure, or it could be the complete opposite, where they're really trying to find the stands. I don't believe that the 1975 would be a band to do that, where they would keep themselves from getting more traction, having more people listen to their music. That's just not a very A-list celebrity type thing. The only other artist I think that really ever did that was John Bellion, but I'm not comparing John Bellion in the 1975 in the slightest. It's just interesting. I think that we can appreciate the music that they created, and I can appreciate this album, but I think they got lost in needing to be bigger and better every time, and they just they put too many, they put like one egg in every basket, and it just didn't work for them. But I'm excited regardless to hear what other music they'll come out with in the future. The Music for Cars EP, I think, is going to be re-released, redefined. But overall, it's awesome to know that these guys just covering punk songs back in 2002 have created at least 15 minutes of me talking here with you guys about them. So I love the 1975. Great stuff. Thank you guys for listening here with me this week. I cannot wait to chat with you all next week about the top releases then, how songs have moved around the charts, music history from that time, that week in history, and then, of course, next week's Band of the Week. Thank you so much for listening to the GSMC Music Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you all please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review. That really, really does help us out. And also, if you can please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, that would be awesome. I'll see you guys next week. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.